All right, today we're diving into the story of one of medieval India's most incredible warrior kings. This is a guy whose entire life was basically a masterclass in courage, resilience, and just this relentless will to fight.
So, I want to start with just one number, 80. What do you think that could mean for a king? 80 years on the throne? 80 kids? Maybe he built 80 palaces. I mean, think about it. The truth, though, is way more intense than any of that. That number, 80, that's how many battle wounds this king carried on his body. 80 separate injuries. Enough to cost him an eye, an arm, and pretty much the use of one of his legs. You know, this isn't just some random fact. It tells you everything you need to know about the man we're about to talk about.
And that man was Maharana Sangram Singh, but history knows him better as Rana Sanga. He was literally the one-eyed, one-armed king who led his armies from the front line. I mean, what a living symbol of Rajput valor. So who was this guy exactly? Well, Rana Sanga ruled the kingdom of Mewar way back in the early 16th century. He was part of the legendary Sisodia clan of Rajputs, a family famous for its warriors. And believe me, he definitely lived up to the family name. Now, before he faced the challenge that would really define his legacy, Rana Sanga spent years carving out a massive empire. And he wasn't handed this kingdom on a silver platter. No, he built it himself, one brutal battle at a time.
And wow, his rise was just meteoric. Get this. From 1517 to 1519, that's 3 years in a row, he racks up 3 huge victories against the powerful sultans of Delhi and Malwa. This wasn't just a lucky streak. The man was an unstoppable juggernaut, building this terrifying momentum with every single campaign.
And all those victories added up to a kingdom that was just immense. We're not talking about a little patch of land here. His power stretched across what we now know as Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and even into parts of Uttar Pradesh. For a while there, he was pretty much the most powerful ruler in northern India. But then, a new player entered the game. A new power came down from the north, an invader with totally new ideas about how to fight a war. His name was Babur, and he was the founder of what would become the Mughal Empire. The rules were about to change completely.
So what Rana Sanga did next was strategically brilliant. He knew he couldn't face this threat alone, so he did something pretty remarkable. He managed to unite all these different Rajput clans who were often fighting each other. And he even made allies out of the Afghan nobles Babur had just defeated. He built this massive coalition to defend their home turf.
And all of this leads to the ultimate showdown. In 1527, at a place called Khanwa, the stage was set for a truly monumental clash. And the stakes? They couldn't have been higher. This wasn't just another battle. This was a fight for the future of all of Hindustan.
You know, this battle was really a clash of 2 different eras. On one side, you have Sanga's huge confederacy, fighting with the tactics they'd perfected for centuries. Brave cavalry charges, raw courage, and just overwhelming numbers. And on the other side, Babur's smaller, disciplined army armed with something terrifying and new: gunpowder, cannons, and firearms. It was old-school valor versus new-school technology. And in the end, technology and tactics won. The thunder of Babur's cannons just ripped through the Rajput formations. It was decisive. Sanga's forces were defeated. And with that one battle, the entire course of Indian history shifted, opening the door for centuries of Mughal rule. So why did they lose after being so successful? Well, it really boils down to 2 huge factors. First, that technology gap. Babur's army had artillery inspired by the Ottomans and Persians, and Sanga's forces just had no answer for it. But the second reason, and this one is just as devastating, was betrayal. Some of his key allies actually switched sides in the middle of the fight, completely shattering the coalition's morale.
But if you think the story ends there with one big defeat, you don't know Rana Sanga. Even after the disaster at Khanwa, his story was far from over. His final chapter, and his real legacy, was still waiting to be written.
Sanga, being Sanga, immediately started to regroup his forces to take on Babur again. But in a truly tragic twist, his biggest enemy wasn't on the battlefield. It was in his own camp. Some of his own nobles, terrified of another devastating war, poisoned him. The unconquerable warrior wasn't taken down by an enemy sword, but by treachery from within. And yet, a king's story never really ends with his death. Yeah, defeat and betrayal are part of Sanga's story, for sure, but they absolutely do not define it. His true impact, well, that echoes way, way beyond his own lifetime.
So why do we still talk about him? Because he represents that last great stand of an independent sovereign before the Mughal conquest swept through. And that spirit of defiance? He passed it right down to his grandson, the legendary Maharana Pratap, who famously continued the resistance. Rana Sanga became this timeless symbol of what it means to fight on, even when the odds are completely stacked against you. Which really leaves us with a final question to think about. Rana Sanga lost his biggest, most important battle, but his is the story we remember. So what really defines a legacy? Is it the outcome of one single battle? Or is it a spirit of defiance so powerful, so unbreakable, that it inspires people for generations to come?